Is your dog afraid of fireworks? It's actually a very common fear. Between 20 and 50% of dogs are afraid of fireworks. So you're not alone. And actually, there are quite a few things that you can do. So I'm going to share some tips with you. I'm Zazie Todd, PhD. I'm an animal behavior expert and the author of several books about dogs and cats. And I'm also an honours graduate of the Academy for Dog Trainers. So the thing about having a dog who is afraid of fireworks is, first of all, you've done really well to spot it because not everybody does spot the signs. So that's great because it means you can do something about it. And number two, if you don't do anything about it, unfortunately, it's very likely to get worse. So it's really a good idea to do something. And there are things you can do depending on whether you think fireworks are likely to happen soon or actually they're coming up a long time in the future. There are things that you can do that will help. We know that doing something helps. There is research to show that doing things helps. So I'm going to share some of these tips with you. So, one of the things you need to do, if we talk about when fireworks are going to happen very soon, suppose it's just before Halloween or it's just before Bonfire Night or Canada Day or the 4th of July or whenever there are likely to be lots of fireworks, you need to make sure that your dog is not outside and loose when fireworks go off because that can be terrifying and some dogs can run away. So, make sure that you toilet your dog early, that you take your dog for walks early in the day before fireworks will start, and that you have them on leash for that walk or on lead so that they can't run off. And do not leave them outside in your fenced yard just in case, because you don't want them to be scared and run away. So making sure that you don't lose them is one of the most important things. And then the other thing is that if you know this is an issue and fireworks are coming up sometime soon, you should speak to your vet about it because many veterinarians will prescribe some medications to help. They can prescribe short-acting medications, and by short-acting, I mean that they will take effect within an hour or two that can help your dog feel much more comfortable. And so it's a good idea to do this not on the day because it's best if you can just do a trial run beforehand. Your vet might suggest that you actually do a trial run beforehand just to make sure that the dosage is right, for example. And then on the day when you're expecting fireworks, that is something that you can do to make a big difference. Other tips, and these are ones that you'll hear fairly common, are to make sure that you've closed the blinds or the curtains so that the dog isn't going to be exposed to flashes from the lights. And you can make sure that you have some kind of background noise running to try and help drown out the sounds. Now, you want to give some thought as to what that is because fireworks can be kind of rumbly, low frequency kind of sounds. So you could try music, but it's not necessarily the best thing. You want something that's got a kind of rumbly, low frequency sound to help to drown it out. So things you can try, you can put trainers, or if you're American, you might call them sneakers, in your tumble dryer, and that will make a kind of low frequency sound. You might want to have your washing machine going or your dishwasher because the sounds from that maybe will help to drown it out. You can try music if you want. You also can get recordings of noise, and something called brown noise might be a good idea to help to disguise that rumble as well. Now, many dogs will actually want to hide. So if you have a place where your dog likes to be, make sure that it's set up as a nice cozy place for them to be if they want to go and hide there. For example, some dogs, if they have a crate that they like spending time in, you can cover it with a towel or a sheet, and your dog might like to spend some time in there. Or they might like to be on the settee. They might want to be near you. And if they want to be comforted by you, then basically you should comfort them if that will help. But for many dogs who are so scared of fireworks that comfort from their human isn't going to be enough, then you also need to be doing these other things. Now, you can train dogs not to be afraid of fireworks, and that actually is a really good thing to do. And even if it's a day when fireworks are already happening, it's still a good idea to start that training. Although ideally, you will start weeks or months in advance because it can take quite a long time to make sure that that training is going to work and help your dog not to be afraid of fireworks. So, One of the things that you can do is something called counter conditioning, and this is worth trying. So it's more like ad hoc counter conditioning on a day when fireworks happen to be going off. It means you have to have some amazing treats to hand, like something that your dog really, really loves that they don't normally get. And that might be bits of chicken or roast beef or Parmesan cheese or sardines or tuna or something like that. And the way you can use it as ad hoc counter conditioning is to try and teach your dog that every time there's a big loud bang, it's going to predict a wonderful treat. Now, if your dog is already scared, it may well be that they're too scared to take the treat, but you still should offer it to them anyway, at least for the first few sets of bangs, and then leave it so that when they have eventually calmed down enough to feel able to eat, then they'll be able to eat those treats. But ideally, as training, you actually will set this up as something to do a long time in advance, and you will do it with a plan, and you will combine this part of offering the treats as counter conditioning with something called desensitization. And what desensitization means is that you're going to start with the sounds at a level that your dog is perfectly happy with, absolutely fine with, maybe can even barely detect. And I say that because when we're doing this, we find a recording of fireworks. It's very easy for us to accidentally play the sound too loud. And you don't want to do that. You want to play at a level that's super, super quiet, really, really quiet, so that your dog is going to be perfectly happy, not bothered at all, not just not bothered, but just like really happy carrying on with whatever they happen to be doing. That's the desensitization part, because what you find is that over time, then gradually you can increase the volume. And then at the same time as doing that, you want to be offering treats to your dog. So as soon as the firework noises start giving treats to your dog. Now, remember, this is fireworks noises on a recording at a really, really quiet level, like really quiet, so that your dog is not bothered. And as long as those sounds go on for, give them the treats, give them the pieces of chicken or roast beef or whatever it happens to be. And then as soon as the fireworks stop giving the treats. And then that's it. Wait again. Do this at random times, because if you do this at a regular time each day, then your dog is going to start getting used to that time, and they'll think, oh, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm about to get my treats for hearing the fireworks. And you don't want that. You want to make sure that the dog only is associating the treats with the fireworks sound. So you can do this at random times. If you're starting a long time before fireworks are likely to happen, you could maybe just do this once or twice a week, and over time, it will actually make a difference. It will especially make a difference if you avoid some common mistakes. So, one of the common mistakes that people make is they think, oh, I'm not going to bother with those amazing treats. I'll just use kibble, because I get it, that's easy, but it's not going to work very well. From your dog's perspective, it needs to be something that is going to be a really lovely, wonderful surprise for them, so that they hear the bang and then after that, they get an amazing surprise. And the other common mistake that people get is we maybe know that fireworks are coming, and so we start reaching for the treats ahead of time, and that doesn't work. That's kind of not quite getting the timing right. So the timing needs to be that there is the bang, and then we reach for the treats, or we run to the fridge to get the treats, or we run to the cookie jar, wherever we happen to have stashed the treats for the dog, and then we get them. So what we're aiming to teach the dog is that the sound of the fireworks is actually predicting all of these amazing snacks, and that will make sure that your counter conditioning is actually going to work. So this is something that you can do over a period of time if you've got it. So suppose fireworks are happening next week. Obviously, you don't have time now to do a full set of training, but you can use those other things that I mentioned to help get your dog just through the night when the fireworks are happening. And then you can just plan, okay, once or twice a week for the rest of the year, I'm going to make sure that I do this training, and over time it will make a difference. So you don't have to make a big deal of it. You just make sure that you incorporate it into your dog's life. And it does help. It's shown to really, really work and to make a difference. Now, there's something else I have to mention, because early on I said you can talk to your vet about medications for your dog in case that will help. But another thing to bear in mind is that if your dog didn't used to be afraid of fireworks and now they are, so they've become afraid of fireworks, especially if they're getting on a bit in age, that is also something that you should see your veterinarian about, because there is some research that shows that that can be a sign of pain in dogs. And I think the idea is that when the dog hears the bang and the loud sound, they kind of startle. And that movement causes pain, like if they have arthritic joints or something like that. So I'm not a veterinarian, but this is something that I know that if I hear about this in one of my clients, then I would suggest to them that they see a veterinarian. So if that is you and your dog, take your dog to the vet and see what your vet thinks. And don't tell your vet what to expect, just describe what you see, what you've noticed, as in this change. In fact, anytime there is a sudden change in your pet's behavior, it's always a sign that you ought to see your vet. Um, so those are some tips for things that you can do to make a difference, and it can be really helpful. And remember, it's important to do something and also allow for the fact that training might take time. So it's worth remembering, though, that often dogs who are scared of fireworks are also scared of other loud noises, like if a car backfires or something like that. So, if those other loud noises happen in the dog's life, it's also a great idea to give really great treats for those as well, because that will help to make your training work better, and it will help the dog to generalize that it's not just fireworks that predict amazing treats, it's any loud bang predicts amazing treats, and that will help the dog to get used to it. Now, you will expect that training to take some time, but it is definitely worth doing because it does make a difference. Now, suppose you're one of those people who has a puppy, you have a wonderful opportunity to actually prevent fear of fireworks. And in fact, this is something that will happen in many puppy classes. If you're not going to a puppy class, it's a really great idea to find a good puppy class that will give your puppy lots of socialization experiences, because it's really about the socialization. It's not so much about obedience and manners and teaching your puppy what to do. It's giving them lots of positive experiences that will help them to be friendly, confident adult dogs. So some trainers will do this in puppy class, but if they don't, then you can do it with your puppy anyway. And it's kind of like what I talked about before of desensitization. You can find recordings of fireworks and you can play them at a really, really quiet level so that they're barely perceptible. And then over time, like on future days or future weeks, you can play them at a slightly higher level. And always pay really careful attention, because if you notice that your puppy is actually looking scared when they hear those noises, turn the noises off right away. Give them treats, try and make it fun, have some play with them or something to turn it into a positive experience. But always, always keep the sounds at a level that your puppy is happy with, and you can teach them just to get used to them, that these sounds are just a kind of a normal thing. When people have done this with their puppies, then they're much less likely to be afraid of loud noises as an adult dog. So, and there's a basic principle in there which applies to both puppies and dogs, which is that you always want to help your dog to feel safe. It's your responsibility as your dog's guardian to help them feel safe. So, unfortunately, when fireworks are going off in the neighborhood, we can't stop them. Sadly, I think many of us wish that we could, but we can't. But we can do the things that we're able to do to help to make it a bit easier on the dog, and it will make a difference. So let me know in the comments what your dog is like with fireworks. I have had several dogs who have been terrified of fireworks, and right now I'm really lucky because my current dog, who I adopted as a senior, turns out not to be afraid of fireworks at all, and it makes such a big difference. So I wish you good luck with your training, with your trip to the vet, with whatever you're doing to help your dog to cope with fireworks. Doing something about it is a really, really good idea, and I hope it turns out well.